The Malaysian Movement Control Order (MCO) is a set of national quarantine measures put in place by Malaysian federal government in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which began on 18 March 2020. To prevent the virus from spreading, MCO imposed restrictions on movement, travel, as well as the shutdown of businesses, industries, government, and educational institutions. Several phases have been implemented across the country, but others have been limited to specific state, federal territories, or smaller localities. The Conditional Movement Control Order and the Recovery Movement Control Order are included. The National Recovery Plan, Malaysia, which was launched in June 2021, featured the Movement Control Order. The Malaysian government declared on October 2021 they will abolish movement restriction for fully vaccinated people and will treat COVID-19 as an endemic illness. Meanwhile, there was Full Movement Control Order (FMCO) or Total Lockdown, which started from 1 to 14 June 2021 in Malaysia. Only the essential economic and social services, as determined by the National Security Council, will be permitted to operate. From the 14th June, a second phase will begin, lasting for 4 weeks, during which most sectors will be allowed to reopen. The Malaysian Movement Control Order policy are functioned to prevent COVID-19 virus from spreading more widely. On the other hand, of course, each policy has its own problems or shortcomings. This policy problem give many various effects on people, education, politics, and economy. Firstly, effect on education is the Prime Minister had instructed the Ministry of Education to implement home-based learning in activities during MCO, and examinations for various national higher education programs were cancelled, and student performance evaluation were substituted by continuous assessment scores. On the other hand, the National Examination (SPM) delayed to January 2021 from their originally scheduled November 2020. Because of this, students who should take their SPM in 2021 should delay their SPM and take it on March 2022. The Ministry of Education announced amends to school term holidays on 23 June in order to assist schools in better planning classes that had been distributed by the MCO. The mid-term break would cut in half, from 9 to 5 days. In addition, in some states, end-of-year school vacations would be shortened from 42 to 14, and other states will be lowered to 41 to 13 days. Because of this, many teachers and students, including their parents, facing stress and being depressed. This problem not only aimed to student and teacher, but also students' parents by stressing them to adapt to the new norm of study. Difficulties of using technology and lack of equipment is one of the biggest problems faced by students, teachers, and parents. The next effect is that it caused legislative activity to be held and several legislators to be isolated owing to fear of the virus spreading. The pandemic began on early 2020, coinciding with a political crisis that lasted into 2021 as COVID-19 spread and emergency government action aggravated already unrelated political instability, culminating in Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin and his cabinet's registration in August 2021. After the 2020 Sabah state election was blamed for a large outbreak in the state and led to the country's third wave, a number of elections has been postponed or suspended. In conclusion, there are several impacts on the people, economy, and politics that occur as a result of these policy problems.
The main objective of Movement Control Order in Malaysia. The Prime Minister of Malaysia have said that the government will enforce a Movement Control Order throughout Malaysia. This is one of the strategies to manage the COVID-19 virus epidemic. The Prime Minister of Health implement rules to regulate the measures to be taken care to control or prevent the spread of infectious illnesses within or from contaminated regions. The other important objective of MCO is to decrease the spread of virus from going to high and have the people to be responsible from taking this case in order to keep them safe and far from this disease. Actors who involved in managing movement control order in Malaysia. The main actor who involved in prevention of COVID-19 is World Health Organization, which is the one who conduct everything to all over the world in order to manage the case and prevent the spread of COVID-19 by enforcing regulations and guidelines. Thus, the actor conducted the cases in Malaysia is our Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. Other than that, the most important actor who also involved in managing movement control order in Malaysia is National Security Policy, which is Majlis Keselamatan Negara. National Security Policy is responsible to all information about the COVID-19, such as vaccination, standard operation procedure, and the number of cases in Malaysia. In addition, the other actor who also involved to measure the safety of the country, such as police, soldier, doctor, and so on. This is to make sure that every person in each country tend to follow the order in movement control order when the spread of COVID-19 has been effect all over the world.
Next is 5.0 implementation of the policy. The government have introduced the Movement Control Order aka MCO that based on the Prevention and Control of Infectious Disease Act 1988 and the Police Act 1967. The MCO is effective since 18 March 2020 until 30 December 2021 throughout Malaysia. This order is to prevent the virus from spread. The term in MCO that mentioned by the 8th Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin is first, total ban on movement and public gathering, whether it's about religious, sports, social or cultural activities. Second, all premises will be closed for time being except supermarkets, groceries, and convenience stores. Third, for those who have returned from abroad have to undergo a medical examination and quarantine for 40 days. Not only that, the government have also restricted the entry of foreign tourists into the country. And lastly, all education institutions and all government or private permits, except those involved with important state services, will be closed for a while. Other than that, during this order, people will lose their source of income. So, to ensure their survival, government introduced Bantuan Khas COVID-19 and Bantuan Perhati Rakyat. This is a direct cash assistance to alleviate the cost of living and the burden of the people due to the pandemics.
Okay, now let's take a look on the evaluation on the effectiveness of the MCO policy using SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and also threats. It's a framework for evaluating a company competitive positions and developing strategic plans. SWOT analysis evaluate external and internal elements as well as present and possible future potential. First of all is strength. We cannot deny that this MCO makes something intelligent out of us. The way we live our life and go about our everyday activities has changed dramatically. We are now trying to build a new nation with a new culture. Many of us were unconcerned with self-hygiene and social distancing a few months ago. But now we are. We never fully understood how a virus works on our bodies, but now we have the ability to preach about it to others. We suddenly become extremely cautious about who we communicate to, and if we had been as cautious previously, many crimes may have been avoided. Second is weaknesses. As we can see, many people affected by the government decision to do movement control order (MCO). There are also many people have to lose their jobs and be laid off because the company cannot afford to pay the workers' salaries. Large companies suffered big loss due to the increasing COVID-19 in our country. Third is opportunities. Opportunity gained by all parties after the government issued a new policy, which is Movement Control Order (MCO), the case reducing in our country. The government had to take this initiative to stop the rising number of COVID-19 cases, and death cases are also on the rise. Fourth is threats. Many people disagree when the government decided to issue this new policy because they did not want to lose their jobs and did not want to live in a new and want to live in the atmosphere the way they used to live before, especially people who are from the B40 group. Next is recommendation. There are a few recommendations that I will give in order to make sure that the new movement control order policy are more effective than before. The first recommendation from my own understanding is by increasing the restriction at state borders. This is because it can help in reducing the increasingly serious cases of COVID-19 in Malaysia, especially in some states with the highest number of cases including death. The second recommendation that I will give is recruit more soldiers to make sure that the border in every state are in good condition. It is because when there are more soldiers in every border, the stricter the movement control order will be. The last recommendation are to make sure that only one or two person in a car, which when they wanted to go buy some groceries, it is to make sure that it can be easier for everyone to buy something that they need.
We are very glad because we can complete this task without problem. From this study, we have found out how government identify the policy problems. Also, we can learn about the main objective of the policy, who involved in these policy programs, how they implement the policy, what's the effect of the policy, and point out the recommendations based on the evaluation. In conclusion, the MCO is very important in ensuring the health of the population free from infection.